Welcome back, casual gardeners. This is another garden science video, and today we're going to be focusing on greenhouse science, specifically the science of greenhouse temperature. I'm also trying out my new green screen today because it is too cold outside, even in the greenhouse, to make any videos. The questions I'll be trying to answer are, how do greenhouses trap heat? Is transparent or diffused glazing better for our plants? What does thermal mass do for a greenhouse? What are some good thermal masses for a greenhouse? What makes water such an amazing thermal mass? Why is air movement so important? And why does relative humidity go up when the temperatures come down? I'm keeping this pretty basic, so make sure that any additional questions you have about the topics I'm covering get dropped into the comments section where I can, answer them. Let's start with the science of how greenhouses trap heat, just in case somebody forgot it from their junior high science classes or their high school science classes or all of the many, many documentaries that are out there about climate change featuring greenhouse gases, which work, just like a greenhouse. First, the greenhouse material allows visible light and a narrow section of UV light to pass into the greenhouse from the sun. Material inside the greenhouse is going to interact with that light, and it's either going to re-emit the light as infrared light or it's going to heat up. Once the infrared light and the thermal energy are released inside the greenhouse, the same material that allowed the visible light to pass through blocks the thermal energy and the infrared light from passing out as easily. And this is what brings the temperature in a greenhouse up above ambient so darn well. Mostly it's not the air inside our greenhouse that interacts with light and heats up. It's going to hit the floor of our greenhouse or the furniture in our greenhouse or even the plants in our greenhouse. And that is what's going to be warmed up by the light that is passing through our glazing. The air inside the greenhouse, that's pretty much just like the air outside. So it's really not going to play a role very much in the initial heating. It is to some extent. Sunlight does heat the air, but mostly the sunlight is absorbed or reflected by more solid objects underneath the blanket of air, and that's why we get the heating from the sun. There are 3 types of thermal energy transmission, and they all play a role in heating up our greenhouse and moving heat around inside of it. You've got conduction, convection, and radiation. Conduction is transferring thermal energy between objects that are in contact with each other. So your hot greenhouse floor might transfer thermal energy to a pot that is sitting on the floor through conduction. Convection is transmission of thermal energy through a fluid medium like water or air or some other fluid. We only care about water and air. So the hot greenhouse floor could heat up the air, which would then heat up a pot that is on a shelf, not on the greenhouse floor, through convection. Radiation is transmission of thermal energy directly in the form of light. So that is how the energy got into your greenhouse in the first place, as visible in UV light, and it is also how hot objects inside of your greenhouse may transmit thermal energy in the form of infrared light, because they're black body radiators, and we're not even going to talk about what that is. This is not a physics channel. The better our greenhouse is at passing energy around inside of it while reducing the emission of energy out of the greenhouse, the more efficiently it will heat up in the light, and the longer it will stay warm after the sun has gone down. Obviously, transparent materials like glass and diffusing materials like polyethylene plastic are both good in a greenhouse, because otherwise we would use just one or just the other. But they're not completely the same. So it's reasonable to ask if direct transmission of light, like you'll get through glass or clear polycarbonate, or whether diffuse transmission of light, like we get through polyethylene plastic or twin wall polycarbonate, is better overall for our plants. Transparent materials like glass or clear polycarbonate are going to allow light to pass directly through without scattering it. This means that there are going to be more bright spots and shaded spots inside of our greenhouse because it's just coming in a direct light. It's going to cast crisper shadows. So a downside is that you'll get less uniform lighting in a greenhouse with transparent materials. But a big plus side for plants of transparent materials, especially this time of year when the days are shorter, is that you're going to get more light per unit time hitting those plant leaves. And that means that our plants are going to be able to take advantage of that extra light during our shorter days to get more photosynthesis done and keep on growing. But overall, the more diffuse light from diffusing greenhouse materials is going to be better for plant health and for greenhouse operation. Diffuse light means that there are going to be more areas in the greenhouse that are good for growing plants. And during the warmer months, we're less likely to find a plant that is struggling in a hot spot. During the regular growing season, when the days are longer, the light loss from diffusing materials is going to stop being a disadvantage and may even become an advantage. Diffusing materials won't keep a greenhouse from overheating, but they might not overheat it quite as quickly. From a plant's perspective, diffuse light is better because fewer of the leaves of the plant are shaded, and that means that more surface area overall is available for photosynthesis. There's also a limit to how much light a plant can use for photosynthesis at a time. Most days there is more than enough light, and a plant may actually have to invest resources in dealing with extra heat and extra light that it cannot use. A plant that is spending its energy compensating for overheating is going to have less energy available for growing and fruiting for us. During the day, greenhouses do an amazing job collecting visible light and converting it into heat. But at night, when there is no light, and because our greenhouse glazing tends to be a poor insulator, greenhouses do an equally good job dropping down to or even dropping down below ambient temperatures. Thermal mass is to lithium as temperature spikes and drops are to bipolar disorder. Thermal mass helps even out those highs and lows. It's like a battery, but for heat. Thermal mass can't change the average temperature in a greenhouse. It can't make more energy come into our greenhouses, and it can't make more energy pass out of our greenhouse or keep energy from passing out of our greenhouse. What it does instead is it holds the temperature of the greenhouse closer to the average temperature. It shaves a few degrees off the highs and the lows, but it doesn't do anything to change that average. Any material inside your greenhouse that takes energy to heat up and gives off energy when it cools down is technically a thermal mass. Your plants, your soil, your greenhouse furniture, your greenhouse floor, even you, when you're inside your greenhouse, you are a thermal mass. It's just most of us don't have the time and probably shouldn't spend that much time inside our greenhouse, so we don't count. Thermal mass can be incorporated into the construction of a greenhouse. Stone, brick, or concrete in the walls or the floor of a greenhouse are all good thermal mass. Even gravel, like I have in my greenhouse floor, counts towards the thermal mass of a greenhouse. In passive solar house construction, there's a structure called a Trombe wall, which is essentially a big, giant thermal mass built of concrete or stone or masonry. It's on the south side of the house, behind a south-facing window with an insulating air gap in between. And that heats up sometimes quite a bit, and the air is allowed to pass through into the rest of the house. We can take advantage of the same principles that are present in a Trombe wall by insulating the north-facing envelope of our greenhouse, or if you're in Strya, the south-facing side, whichever side doesn't get sun. Insulate that. We can then build a thick thermal mass wall, so that would be stone or brick or masonry or anything that's, massive. And then the greenhouse itself serves as that insulating gap between the glazing that faces the sun and the thermal mass. Building a Trombe wall into a greenhouse is expensive and labor intensive, and most of us greenhouse growers ain't got time for that. Luckily, there is a cheap alternative, and that is to go ahead and insulate that south side or north side, the side away from the sun, insulate it, and then we just line it with barrels of water. Water is an amazing thermal mass. Some greenhouse growers will incorporate a pond into their greenhouse, usually on that north side, instead of using barrels of water, but mostly you'll see this in larger greenhouses. If you're feeling really fancy and you've got a big budget, it's possible to use phase change materials in a greenhouse instead of big barrels of water. So water is technically a phase change material, but it changes phases at freezing point, 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. Most greenhouse growers would prefer to keep their greenhouse warmer than that. Theoretically, PCMs will allow a greenhouse grower to keep their temperatures in their greenhouse higher than freezing without using as much space. Water is the best thermal mass of all the conventional greenhouse materials. We can quantify how much energy it takes to change the temperature of a substance as the specific heat of the substance. Specific heat is measured in joules per gram Kelvin, or how much energy in joules it takes to change a mass of 1 gram of that substance by 1 degree Kelvin. Kelvin is an absolute temperature scale, where 0 is absolute freezing. The temperature of freezing water is 273.5 degrees Kelvin, and then the temperature of the surface of the sun is about 12,000 degrees Kelvin, and it just keeps on going up from there. So it goes from absolute 0 up instead of zeroing out at the freezing point of water. The specific heat of natural stone is 0.84 joules per gram Kelvin, and gravel is going to have a lower specific heat because it is less dense. It's got more air pockets in it. The individual bits of gravel are going to have the same specific heat as natural stone, but if you are using gravel versus, slabs of rock, gravel is going to have a lower specific heat. Air has a specific heat of 1 joule per gram Kelvin. So it seems on the face of it that air is actually a better thermal mass than stone. But then we consider how much area a gram of air takes up relative to a gram of stone. Air is so much less dense, and so we usually don't consider air a significant thermal mass in our greenhouse, though it does contribute, especially if it's humid air with lots of water in it. Water has a specific heat of 4.18 joules per gram Kelvin, which is about 5 times as high as the specific heat of stone. And that sounds amazing until we consider the fact that water is also less dense than stone. But even if we account for the density of water, which is lower, water still has thermal capacity that is twice as high as the thermal capacity of natural stone. The relatively high thermal capacity of water is due to the chemical properties of water, in addition to all of the regular molecular interactions that matter does when you pack it together. Water does a whole lot of hydrogen bonding. These hydrogen bonds contain energy, and it takes energy to break the bonds. So we have to add extra energy beyond what we might have to add without hydrogen bonds to push those molecules of water apart. And that energy gets stored in the water like a battery and is gradually released as the water cools off. Air movement is really important in a greenhouse. That's why you'll often hear me whine that I don't have reliable air movement in my greenhouse yet. Yes, air movement helps reduce pathogens in our plants by reducing how long water condensation stays on the plant surfaces and allows for fungal infection. But in addition to that, air circulation in the greenhouse helps us regulate the temperature in a greenhouse. Maintaining good air movement in a greenhouse means that more of the air volume in a greenhouse is passing through or by our thermal mass every hour. And that means that the thermal mass is able to more efficiently regulate that greenhouse temperature. Without good air movement in a greenhouse, we are likely to see heat stratification. I know there's a video I've made where I talk about this. That's when the temperature higher up in the greenhouse is noticeably warmer than the temperature down lower in the greenhouse, and the floor of the greenhouse might remain pretty cold in the winter. What this does is it reduces how efficiently our thermal masses are able to absorb heat during the warmer parts of the day and then re-release it at night. It also means if we've got the automated vents, and I do, those vents are going to heat up before the heat has gotten all the way through the greenhouse, and we're going to be prematurely releasing the heat from our greenhouse into those cold winter days. If you have a greenhouse and you use probe to monitor the temperature and humidity in your greenhouse, you might have noticed that as the temperature goes up, the relative humidity goes down. This happens because warm air can hold more moisture than cold air. The key word in relative humidity is relative. The total amount of moisture in the greenhouse can stay the same between the highs and the low temperatures. It's just the amount of moisture that is in the air that is going to change. So as your temperature goes up, the moisture from our soil might actually be taken up into the atmosphere inside the greenhouse, and hopefully too much of it won't be vented out. And then as the temperature drops again and the air in our greenhouse loses its ability to hold on to that moisture, we're going to see the moisture pass back out of the air. Now, before it does, the humidity is going to go up. So as the air's capacity for moisture goes down, the total amount of that capacity for moisture that is used goes up. It's kind of like if your bank is mad at you and they lower your credit limit, but you still have the same amount of debt on your credit card, the total percentage of your credit card that has been used goes up, even though you didn't buy anything else. It's exactly the same as that with relative humidity. During the colder parts of the day, the moisture budget of the atmosphere goes down. And that's why we are more likely to see condensation on the ceiling and walls of our greenhouse, or even on the plants in our greenhouse at night than we are during the day. Now make sure you've let me know in the comments if, as I was covering something, I missed something, or you have some questions left over that weren't answered. I'd love to make sure that those get answered for you. Also, if you liked this video, make sure you smack that like button so that the YouTube algorithm knows that this is the sort of thing you like. Also, you might want to consider subscribing to my channel so that when I make another one of these, or maybe one with a better green screen, you can watch that one as well. Thank you for joining me in front of my green screen today. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden.